He is a star. He's the leader of the Socialist Party of Zambia, the president of it. Dr. Fred Membe joins me now. Since when, Dr. Fred? You've had some rough treatment on the campaign trail. I saw some disturbing footage of that. As I told you when I was in China with you, I remember Zambia so fondly. I spent a lot of time there in the era when the ANC were headquartered there and the late Oliver Tambo was based there, the leader of the ANC in the absence of Mandela in jail. And the leader was the avuncular KK, Kenneth Kaunda, a gentleman in my opinion. But Zambia is not what it used to be, is it?
Definitely, it's not what it used to be, George. Thank you very much for bringing me on this program today. And thank you for seeing you after almost 2 months since we met in Beijing.
Yes.
Zambia was progressive under Kaunda. It supported the liberation movement. It was a revolutionary country. Today, Zambia is on the path of reactionary. It is supporting imperialism, is an agent of imperialism, is a puppet of imperialism. It has accepted to set up military installations of the USA on its soil, something that could not be imagined some 2 decades or so ago. This is where we are. Today, Zambia is led by people who represent the interests of those who first colonized us. George, you may be aware that the first colonizer of Zambia was a mining corporation owned by Cecil John Rhodes. It was not the British who first colonized this territory. It was a mining corporation, the British South African Company, owned by Cecil John Rhodes, an imperialist of great magnitude at that time. From 1891 to 1924, we were under direct rule of a mining corporation. And this mining corporation waged a war against our people. From December 1897 to the 4th of February 1898, they attacked the Ngoni people in the eastern part of Zambia. They believed there was gold there because south of that part of Zambia, they had found gold in what is now Zimbabwe. And they believed in the northern part, there was also gold. So they wanted to take over the land owned by the Ngonis. The Ngonis were descendants of the Zulus who came to Zambia, to this territory in 1830. They were descendants of the Zulus who had defeated the British army at the Battle of Insandi, Rwanda. They resisted Cecil Rhodes taking over their land. But Cecil Rhodes' army was well equipped, well resourced. They had no choice but to defend themselves with a assegai. Although they had a few guns they had acquired from trading, they realized that they could not use those few guns because the ammunition, the gunpowder, had to come from Cecil Rhodes. So they resorted to fighting with the assegai against advanced weapons of that time, 7-pounders. After 2 months, they were defeated. 10,000 young Ngonis were massacred. The leader of the Ngoni warriors, the son of King Mpezeni, was captured on the 4th of February, 1898, court-martialed, and the following morning at dawn, on the 5th of February, he was executed together with his 2 wives by a mining corporation that ruled this territory for 33 years. Later on, we know that the BSA was taken over by Anglo. It was taken over by Anglo. The descendants of Anglo today are back in Zambia, setting up mining interests, controlling the government. They are responsible for putting the ruling party in power. They have a foundation called the Brentes Foundation, which is sponsoring the DA in South Africa, which is sponsoring Chamisa in Zimbabwe, which is sponsoring Bobby Wine in Uganda. Why should a mining corporation be interested in the governance of a territory? It's not new. They governed before. Now they want to govern indirectly through their puppets. We hope the people of Zimbabwe will not do what we did in Zambia by allowing a puppet of the mining transnational corporation to rule us, to govern our country, and it hand it over to the people who had plundered us, brutalized us for decades. Although ZANU-PF has got challenges, yes, it has made many mistakes, it has many weaknesses, we still feel it would be better to continue with ZANU-PF than hand over to people who we fought and defeated in the second Chimurenga.
That's the key point
is the reality of Zambia
that you
today.
make, Doctor. That's the key point that you made. These people ruled before and were defeated, but they have licked their wounds, amended their modus operandi, and have come back. But this time, they have competitors, not just brave African competitors like you, but the allies of people like you. And I refer, of course, to China and to a lesser extent, Russia. They are no longer only worried about Kenneth Kaunda's, they are worried about China and Russia and its ever-increasing popularity amongst the African people. Is Zambia immune from that development?
The Zambian government, the current puppet government, voted with the USA on the issue of Russia. We know very well that provocation is a tried and tested weapon of imperialism. They are provoking us here. They provoked a war between Ukraine and Russia. They are provoking China. There's nowhere in the world where imperialism has resorted to this poisonous weapon so brazenly, so freely, as in the case of Russia today. It's very clear. China isn't being spared. China is being provoked in a similar way in the case of Taiwan. The war in Ukraine did not begin with the Russian intervention. There is a series of authors of this war. Each one is important to understand what is going on today in Ukraine and in the conflict with Russia. There's issues of ethnicity because imperialism divides people. NATO's expansion is very clear. Despite the assurance NATO had given in 1990 to the last government of the Soviet Union that it will not expand eastward. That assurance was given by Secretary of State James Baker when he said there will be no more an inch movement towards the east. But we know that in 2004, 7 Eastern European nations were absorbed in NATO. That's Bulgaria, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania, Slovakia, they were absorbed in NATO. By the time we are getting to 2007, the Russians had started to realize they were in danger. Despite that, in the early 1991, Russia was partnering with NATO under Boris Yeltsin. From 1991 to 1999, Russia was cooperating, was partnering with NATO. They wanted to be part of the European project. But it failed. Even under Putin, when Putin took over, President Putin took over, there was still some cooperation. There was still some interest in the European project. But soon they realized it wasn't going to work. And more threats, more and more provocations were put in the way of Russia. So the war in Russia, the conflict in Russia today, did not start with the Russians getting into Ukraine. There are a series of factors. Imperialism, George, can't survive without war. Imperialism can't survive without conflict. Today, however, things are changing. We have progressive people like yourself using whatever opportunities are there, using this platform to educate, to agitate, to organize, to mobilize our people against the provocations of imperialism. We need a peaceful world. We don't need wars. We need a peaceful world. But that peaceful world will not come to us in a peaceful way as long as imperialism dominates. There's work to be done, and thanks for the great effort you're exerting every day. You are doing a great job. We are very proud of you.
God bless you. God bless you. Dr. Fred Membe, the president of the Socialist Party of Zambia. You actually read, hopefully after some years, my gravestone. Agitate, educate, organize.
Organize.
That's the slogan
mobilize.
inscribed.
Yes.
That's the slogan inscribed on my heart. Dr. Fred.
What a great epitaph.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us on the mother of all talk shows.